There's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP Morning Show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.
Hola, bon dia, Alegria Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show, a live stream and the podcast. Hey, special good morning to you, podcast listeners. You seem to be growing all around the world, so I'm going to record a little special message for you with a bit of a soundscape. So I know some of you are, what would be the right bimodal? Some of you like to watch the YouTubes as well as listen to the podcast from time to time, and I've been gathering little soundscapes of being inside Portuguese cafes, a bit of bird song that I published the other day, and I'll weave those together and create a special message for the podcast listeners that makes the most of being in stereo in both ears, doing it to you in both ears. Well, welcome this morning to the Good Morning Portugal show. What's good about your morning? Do let us know in the comments. Who do we have here already this morning? Deagle's in, and excuse me. Oh, and keen to see what Michael makes of Cristiano Ronaldo's deal. I think he did mention when we spoke to him before. He is, of course, with us at 9 o'clock this morning with his Portugal predictions. But Michael, I think, did mention that Cristiano might get an offer he couldn't refuse, which it looks like he has in Saudi Arabia. So we'll get Michael's view on that, as well as his predictions for Portugal for 2023. He joins us at 9 o'clock, and he will remain with us for the biggest phone in Europe. Despite having no callers yesterday, I wonder if we can improve on that this morning. Good morning, Europe, the biggest phone in Europe, which we are co-creating together. Your comments are equally valuable as your calls, but if you do want to call in, make that 00351 913 590303. Can I ask you to add that to your address book, please? So that should you be moved to phone one day, you can do exactly that. So 00351 913 590303. And of course, that is the number for WhatsApp for the community contributions. So that at 9:30, we'll see where we go with that project this year. Wouldn't it be amazing if you could say to your grandchildren and friends, and when you're being interviewed, maybe by me in 20 years' time, yes, I remember when we first started the Good Morning Europe phone-in. Yes, we'll all talk like that in 20 years, you know. So yes, be part of making that history and creating Europe's biggest phone-in. You might be laughing now, but you might be very proud of us all in a few years' time when we are having calls from all over the world, probably, but especially celebrating what it is to live on the European continent. Peninsula. Great call last night on the Portugal Club with the wonderful Jim White up there in Porto. In our conversation as our extraordinary expat guest last night, he shared 3 vignettes of Portuguese life, one of which was that he booked a fado session for his wife. They've been in Portugal for just over a year now. And Jim asked the proprietor of the fado venue if they sold cakes. And it'd be an unlikely situation, wouldn't it, if in Portugal you couldn't find a cake within a few 100 meters of any particular venue. But the proprietor said, I'll bake you a cake. And the whole place sang happy birthday to Jim and to Mandy up there in Porto. Isn't that amazing? A lovely, lovely little snapshot of the warmth of the Portuguese culture, people, and life here in Portugal. So thank you, Jim, for being with us last night. To look forward to tomorrow night, let's talk about culture shock and etiquette. That is our Expats Portugal webinar tomorrow night from 7:30. That should be fun, but also useful as well. No pointing, as the lady is doing in the picture there. All right, so I did begin to say, who's here? What's that? I talk like that now. I was part of. You talk like an old geezer now. Get off my lawn. I'll come down there. You see, oh, and Jim is here. Bon dia, todos. Thank you for last night. I love to get a little note like that. Thank you for last night. So Jim's in, T-Duck, Deagle. We have James as well with us from Monday. Of course, Migration Mondays. He's calling. What's he calling himself this week? Feliz Ano Novo, the Lejma. Happy New Year, Slug. There you go. Lejma. It's a nice word, isn't it? How's your Portuguese going? I haven't asked anybody that yet, have I? This year. How is your Portuguese going? We know that Deagle hasn't missed a beat or a step learning his Portuguese. It's a bon dia, Carl and Gumpus from him in a dry and mild 11 degrees overnight in Belfast. Not had double digits since November. Sadly, temperatures won't climb much more, maximum 13 degrees. And Deagle, we need to get that money to you. Deagle won the sweepstake, the World Cup sweepstake, and it's fine that it goes to charity if that's what you prefer. But we need to have your decision on that, whether you want it to, how much of it you want to give to charity, because that was one of the suggestions, and which charity, if that's the case, and how to get the money to that charity and to you as well. So do let us know, mate. We need to get that resolved, don't we? Francis, I know, is keen to do that, who's also here this morning with a Feliz Ano Novo. Good to see you all. Bon dia, alegria, todos. Great to see you, Francis, as well. I'm going to have a look, show you our news page. This is what I intend to do most mornings and often never get round to it. But this, if I share on the screen with you, the website, I was doing some work on the website yesterday. I'm actually quite proud of the Good Morning Portugal website, but it's very easy to get bogged down in your own view of things, isn't it? And not be able to see the wood for the trees. So if you think there's something that's missing from the Good Morning Portugal website that is a really obvious thing, and I'm not doing it, do let me know, and I will do my best to furnish the website for you with that. Excuse me, I've got a slightly croaky voice this morning, but hasn't everybody at the moment? So here's our homepage then, and we'll have a quick look at the news, which I was updating yesterday. Yes, and the big news on the front page, of course, is helping us create Europe's biggest phone-in, and the link to the blog piece, 3 stages of successful migration. That's my article right there. Let's go to the news desk then and see what's new over there. A story that, or an article that caught my attention this morning was police investigating the theft of a velociraptor. Yes. Now it's a very interesting situation, isn't it? When looking at what news to share, I will remind myself here that I conceived of the Good Morning Portugal news and features desk as a place, as it says here, for a cheerful community and independent news. The sorts of things that you won't see reported elsewhere. That'll be the independent bit, won't it? Stuff pertaining to us being bonded as a community of expats and gumpers, and cheerful. And a lot of the news that I was looking at isn't very cheerful this morning. It's that time of year, of course, as well, isn't it? We're fast approaching. Is it called Blue Monday? That's that is the scientific assessment of the most miserable day of the year. But as we say here, and as we might have on a T-shirt soon enough, happiness is a choice. And I got a very interesting message in. I can't remember. I'm trying to reach for it now, but I can't remember on the many platforms in which I operate. I can't remember which one. I'm just going to try Messenger quickly to see if it's Messenger. No, it wasn't Messenger, but somebody messaging me about the obsession we seem to have with happiness, and of course human beings would be obsessed with happiness, wouldn't they? And the point being made was that meaning is more important than happiness. But can't we have happiness and meaning? Does it have to be a choice? Anyway, I'm talking of happiness, and perhaps I shouldn't be quite so amused by this, but police investigating the theft of a velociraptor. So if you see an articulated lorry or a very large van, and there is an object on there with a tarpaulin over it, and there's a big tail sticking out, it could well be the velociraptor that has been stolen in central Portugal. We'll have a look. We'll dwell on that story after I've just mentioned or shown you actually on the screen here. Stephen O'Regan, remember we interviewed him a long time ago. He is the fella behind a really interesting guy, great filmmaker, People of Lisbon. And his latest, it's a compilation video, really, of all the people, I think, probably all of them who've been featured on People of Lisbon, POL. Happy New Year, everyone, he says. Stephen here, producer of People of Lisbon. To mark the new year, I made this People of Lisbon supercut. There you go, not a compilation. That's what the youngsters call it, a supercut, a mega mix. It's simple, but it took an age. I bet it did. It's not the sort of time and care I take making films, making movies for YouTube. I was saying this, met a fantastic couple yesterday. Actually, I went for a swim in the sea yesterday in San Martino de Porto. I think I might have a picture to show you of. Don't worry, not of me swimming, but the lovely scene on the beach yesterday. I'm sure I downloaded this, or maybe I'll have to come back to it. Oh, here it is. Yeah, bear with just a moment. Here's a couple of my kids. The little fellow was the first in the water yesterday. He said he wanted a suntan. Yeah, what he actually said was he's 4 years of age and he wants to be black. All we could say to him was, well, you could be a little bit browner possibly if you get into the sunshine. And normally he's very afraid of getting sand on his feet or even getting wet. He's like a cat. But he was straight in his endeavors to change his skin color. He was straight in there yesterday. And by this time, the picture you can see on the screen, this is the older two, enjoying the sunshine yesterday. And I was in there later on. I swam in the water there with my daughter who loves to be in the water. A little bit chilly, but I had a debt to repay. I was meant to be in the water on New Year's Day and I couldn't make it because Mrs. M was poorly. And as she is this morning, actually, not well enough to do the show this morning and just taking it easy in bed. But I had a debt to pay to Lynn. Lynn Clear of Clearly Creative, who was doing a charity fundraiser on New Year's Day. So I will send Lynn the video, lucky Lynn, of me, because I felt I needed to balance that up. I was owing a dip to Lynn. So I got in there yesterday and it was lovely, I have to say. Where was I going with all of that? Oh, yes, making videos. And I met a filmmaker as well on the beach there. Nice to meet you, Mikey, who's in Nazaré, who films The Surfers. So looking forward to hanging out with, or maybe he'll be at the meetup today. I did send him an invitation for that. And see you at the meetup today if you're going to be there. With Stuart from Spain Speaks, I think might be dropping in. If you want to meet Stuart, he'll be joining us at our meetup at San Martino de Porto. Usual place, Palmera. It was shut yesterday. I think they were only taking yesterday off. If not, we'll meet in the Yellow Cafe next door, where I had an excellent bifana, I have to say. Sorry, Nelson, but you were shut, mate. So I had a nice bifana and batatas fritas in there. It was great. Okay, Happy New Year, everyone, says Stephen, producer of People of Lisbon. To mark the new year, I made this People of Lisbon supercut. It's simple, but it took an age. That's where we got to, wasn't it? Be nice and give the video a like if you like it. Be really nice and give the video a like even if you don't like it. As always, we are looking for great people to feature on the show, so drop us a line if that's you or you know anyone. And I suppose the clue is in the name of the video there, People of Lisbon, they're looking for. Finally, if anyone is looking for videography or photography work, look no further than myself and Rita Anson. That's it for now. Talk soon. So there you go. That's Stephen O'Regan, who's happy to come back on the show, actually, when I asked him just recently. Another item in there on the news page at goodmorningportugal.com is this bottle of wine that I saw yesterday. Fantastic label, and it's a Dow wine. So, I post a lot of material to Facebook and other social media sites, and I was thinking, why am I giving them content when I can just write these things on my own website? So I'd be most grateful if you would visit the website from time to time. And I did cross post it after I'd finished, but why give these social media sites that if it's free, you're the product, right? And I had that thought yesterday. So if we're making content, why don't we make it for ourselves? If you want to be a blogger on the goodmorningportugal.com website, put your content where it can really be meaningful and in the right place. So we have, as you can see from the drop-down menu that I've just tickled there, we have a Gumper blog here, which I would say is pretty good. We've got a few contributions. Andy's trip to Spain, Martin and Jojo's trip to the north, some lovely photographs. We've got some amazing resources on our own website. Why would we give it all to Facebook and TikTok and so on? Anyway, the Dow wine region, a little bit Marmitey. And this one caught my eye. It had a lovely label. I'm a sucker for a label and a region I don't normally venture into. Tinto Roriz grapes, Touriga Nacional grapes. Why are you asking, am I featuring wine on the breakfast show? Well, the thing about wine is when you research Portuguese wine, you learn a lot about Portuguese geography, Portuguese culture, and the languages we'll discover here as well this morning. And I'm hoping that the likes of Antonio F. or João F. are here to help us. It was good, actually. I really enjoyed this one, as well as the Roriz and Nacional grapes. It had Jaen berries in it as well, Jaen, and it was somewhat different to many Portuguese wines. And I think that's why DAO does separate, the DOC of DAO does separate wine connoisseurs, well, not just connoisseurs, but anyone who's trying Portuguese wine. Sometimes the DAO can be a bit jangly, I think, as a taste, somewhat different to some of the other flavors that you get used to in Portugal. And the name of it is got a fantastic label. The name of it is Sonante. And there is a fantastic illustration, a Heath Robinson style musical instrument on there. So I was thinking sonant means sonic or, full of sound. And in fact, it means sinful, according to Google Translate, which we know sometimes translates to Brazilian Portuguese, or actually just gets it wrong from time to time. So if you know what sonant means, or you'd care to hazard a guess, do let me know. So there you go. That's in the news. I'm going to have to just amuse yourself for a moment. I'm going to have a good cough and a sip of water. There you go. A nice big chunk of dead air there. There'll be a ceremony to commit that dead air to the ground later on today. Also, in that article, my own article about Sonant, is a link to the Douro being in the headlines again, the Douro winemaking region, that is. It has been chosen, I believe, as I thought I'd put a link to that. Anyway, it is wine capital of Europe for 2023, the Douro. So maybe if we get in touch with their PR department, Good Morning Portugal can broadcast from the Douro sometime this year. Wouldn't that be lovely? We'll come back to the Velociraptor in just a moment. There's also a news piece in there. I think it was from the Portugal News. It is, yes. Where is the cheapest country for US citizens to move to? I mean, talk about cynical. And, knowing the cost of everything and the value of nothing. Is that really the sort of article we want? Cheapest countries? Best value would be better, but also a more holistic measure maybe, rather than just everything being cheap. You have to pay for everything in the end, don't you? I think. And also Portuguese dishes among the 100 best in the world. You can click through to that. So I'm doing my best to source interesting news items there, things you might not find elsewhere as well. So there are news links and our own compositions as well over on the news desk there. We'll come back to the Velociraptor story in just a moment after we've checked out what's going on in the comments as well this morning. Mark's in now as well, and by Randy. Antonio F is here. So does sonant mean sinful, or is it something to do with sound? Antonio F, if I could ask you that. Sarah and Stephen also here this morning. And Bob Wenger is here. Bon dia. I've got some lovely pictures from you, Bob. Beautiful day. And if we have the joy... And we have the joy of my daughter Holly being here this week. Fantastic. Good morning to you, Holly. Hola, bon dia. Holly, how's it going? How are the folks treating you? Having a nice time in the north of Portugal? Stopping by on the way to Shakespeare Magic Characters Research in London. Oh, that sounds like fun. Excellent stuff. And thank you for these pictures, Bob, as well. These are absolutely beautiful. Looking forward to talking to you in a couple of weeks' time. The first of your pictures I'm putting on the screen, is that an egret? There, that black bird that is you've caught mid-flight there. Viv having a quiet moment, and probably while you were snapping pictures of the bird life, Viv having a moment and a nice little read of a book there. And also, I think I had here we go. Here's the third of your trio of pictures this morning. That's beautiful. Bit of time-lapse water photography there. In the beautiful north of Portugal. Where were these taken, Bob? Or do you mind disclosing your secret location, I wonder? We'll see you on the 16th of January for your relationship special, Love and Sex Over 60. And Holly might be like, ew, if she's tuned in this morning. But thank you for volunteering, Bob and Viv, for that, talking about relationships on our webinar on the 16th of January. Next Monday, the 9th, we'll have Mama Bear McGowan, Matter of Life and Death in Portugal, where we'll be talking about every aspect of what happens at the end of life. And I'm in a typical manner, skirting around the issue of death and dying. Yes, and euphemistically referring to it as what happens at the end of life. You know what I'm talking about. And if you've seen her on the morning show, you'll know that Mama Bear McGowan has no problems talking about death and dying. And she's a death doula, I think, is one of her identifications. And she helps people in the latter part of life, people who are coming towards the end in a terminal diagnosis and so on. And is not at all squeamish and very supportive in these matters, but not just the pastoral, emotional, spiritual side of things, but also knows a thing or two about the arrangements that can be different here in Portugal. So join us for that next Monday evening. Okay, this is our webinar series, Relationships on the 16th, Love and Sex Over 60 with Bob and Viv and Mama Bear McGowan on the 9th of January, next Monday evening. Okay, let's come back to the comments and let's see if we can help the police and track down that Velociraptor OLP. Hi, Gumpers, also in this morning. Bon dia from Bairandi. There is a free Bairrada sparkling wine. Sparklingly wine, I like that. Wine lesson and tasting event on the Gumper map. So we will have a look at that as well. While we're having a Velociraptors in a little while. Happy New Year, sunny here in the Algarve. Morning, Paul. Just got back from the Eastern Algarve and a little trip to Spain. Check you out. Any pictures? Top photographer Paul Richards, of course. Carlos F is here. Hey, Carlos. Bon dia to you as well, my friend. And what's this? Hope they're just talking about that rather than a practical demo. I'm guessing that's the sex over 60. Okay, Gemaira, I think. Rio Lima picks. Bird is a cormorant. There you go. Taking off from drying out a bit on a boulder. And yes, I love how cormorants dry their wings in the sun. And yeah, they're kind of spread-eagled, as it were, aren't they, when they're drying out their wings, and until a photographer comes along and then they take flight with their nice dry wings. Lovely pictures. Thank you very much, Bob, for those, and thank you, Ian, for your comment there. I think we've got a God Squad tip of the day. I did go to find the dad joke warning, and it was more difficult than I thought, so I will remake that, and we need to give you a God Squad tip of the day. We need to give you a new jingle as well for 2023, don't we? Okay, let's go back to top producer T-Duck's contributions. And also we'll be seeing a T-Duck, of course, at the meetup today. If you want to meet top producer T-Duck, as well as Stuart from Spain Speaks, come to the meetup today. San Martino de Porto from 1 o'clock this afternoon at the Palmera Cafe. Okay, Bon dia, Greer Gumpers from T-Duck. Deep thought then, the danger in trying to do good is that the mind comes to confuse the intent of goodness with the act of doing things well. Yes, don't let the excellent spoil the good when it comes to those random acts of kindness. It's so interesting, isn't it, what the mind tends to do? So the danger in trying to do good is that the mind comes to confuse the intent of goodness with the act of doing things well. I think we can appreciate that, can't we? Letting the I suppose the process spoil the result, perhaps there. Ursula K. Le Guin, of course, who is a T-Duck's featured deep thinker of the week, and Le Guin, an American author best known for works of speculative fiction, didn't write the Portuguese saying, however. Tarde dar e negar estão a par. Late giving and denying are on a par. Late giving and denying are on a par. He gives twice, who gives in a trice. What? Late giving and denying, or what is that? Is that saying basically you might as well not give if you're giving late? I wonder. But then T-Duck adds, he gives twice, who gives in a thrice. Oh, in a trice. I don't think I understand that. I could take that both ways. That it's bad to give late, or if you give late, you need to give more. I'm not sure. Let's come back to that. What do you think? Who knew? Oh, by the way, when talking of what you think, with that news item about the cheapest place for Americans to live, was it in Europe? There's also a link there which says discuss here. Where is the cheapest country for US citizens to move to? Discuss here. That will take you through. Does that change when I click on that on the screen? No, it doesn't, unfortunately. But you will see some of the news items have discuss here, and that will take you through to our Google group. Other platforms may be available soon. But discuss here will take you through to the Google group where you can have your say if you wish to continue the conversation after the show is finished. If you're thinking to yourself, hold on a minute, cheap? What? Portugal? No, I'm not having that. I need to have my say. Go through to the Google group and do that by clicking on discuss here. So some of well, you could start. I think you can start your own discussion. I'm new to the Google group thing, but it could be a useful outlet for people's creativity and just outright bursts of anger, basically. If you need to get things off your chest, we're here to hold, care for, and witness anything that you need to get off your chest, as long as you do it respectfully and lawfully. Okay. I think we've got some dad jokes, and I've taken to doing the dad jokes a little bit earlier in the show so that I don't forget them. But then again, I have got Michael Herron on from 9 until 10, and I do love to see his face when I'm doing the dad jokes. So I'm actually going to save him this one. I'll do a little sneaky preview of one of them for you. What do you say to comfort a friend who's struggling with grammar? There, and there. Very good. Love that. That's a good one. So he'll like that. So we'll come back to that later on. Notably, what's this? I think I might have posted that up in the wrong order there. Let's just go with this first. Hugununu. Indian cuisine wouldn't be what it is without Portuguese trade. That's interesting, isn't it? It's colony and vice versa, right? Including the humble chamosa, which we like to have at the Palmeira Cafe. Its colonies and trading posts in the subcontinent, notably Goa, brought in a variety of foods from the New World, notably the chili pepper, the tomato, and the humble potato as well. The nightshade family, perhaps before the Portuguese got to India, not so much in circulation there. It's a chili and nightshade as well, but certainly those things, the potato, the tomato, and the aubergine, I think, from the nightshade family, and perhaps some would say should be eaten in moderation when it comes to getting your diet right. I'm just tweaking up my virtual background now. Bear with. Okay, thank you very much, Hugununu, and the chili pepper, the tomato, and the potato, and its popularity in the Far East. Because of Portugal, allegedly here. There you go. The link to the online discussion you can find there as well. That's the Google group. Have a little bit of a fertile around in there, if you will, if that's your sort of thing. And bom dia, Gumpas from James. Feliz gata todos. Como vão as coisas? How are things? How are things? Okay, we've had the Belfast weather report this morning, and we will ask Michael for sure what he thinks about Cristiano Ronaldo. Jim's in, and yes, T-Duck does talk like that already. Get off my lawn. Coach Turner's in. Bon dia Gumpa's latest news in the Turner household. Booked a week in Madeira late in February. Yes, will be Mrs. T's first visit there. Can't wait. And please take pictures and send them to us. It's very photogenic places, Madeira. And your particular knowledge of the Gumper mind and the sort of things we like to see, I think will be a fantastic combination. You and Madeira and a camera. Awesome. If you can remember us while you're there, that'll be great. And maybe even some video, you doing your thing. And let's see if Bairandi's, a sexy edition. What's going on here? Let's see if Bairandi's input and observation yesterday that his Keep Fit class seems to be on the same wavelength as you. Let's find out if that's true today. The plank, is a popular exercise for improving core strength. I think I ate that panettone a little bit too fast this morning. I like my panettone with a lot of butter on it. And I'm also at that stage now where I'm nearly at the end of the panettone that I bought very enthusiastically during the Christmas period. And now it's a race against staleness to get through that massive mountain of panettone, which I did my bit this morning, literally. The plank is a popular exercise for improving core strength, but it can be further improved with a sexy addition. Start with a standard plank, not Cockney rhyming slang, then raise and lower the hips several times. And I put some of that music on in the background. Excellent. Thank you very much, Coach Turner. Will you be demonstrating that on video? How are you doing this morning, Stephen Wells? And how are you, Sarah Yerman? How are you? Tudo bem? Como estás, Antonio F? And yes, that. Thank you for that. We will. Let's have a let's. Oh, Michael will be joining us soon. Already 9 o'clock. So let's just resolve the Velociraptor thing, shall we? And find out what's going on there. Now, when I click on these links, I don't think it changes for you, does it? But let me just see. If it doesn't, I'll just manually insert that, so to speak. Yeah, okay. I'll have to do a manual insertion of the Velociraptor. Actually, no. I want to go back very briefly to the website because we're going to see if we can find that sparkling wine tasting on the interactive map, the Gumper map, which is loading now. Yes, we can. Let's bring that onto the screen. And when it clicks into a new window, you don't come with me, unfortunately. So let's just go. Let's open that on a new window. Yeah, there you go. You should be able to see it in a couple of seconds. There it is, friends. Yeah, look at all the work that Andy's been doing on the map there. And we'll zoom in. And I think he's talking about it's going to be in the Bairrada area here, isn't it? One of these lovely purple dots here, points of interest, free workout and look about, festas, free bubbles training. There it is. That will be then on the 18th of this month. Free bubbles training. I think it might be this one here. Let's have a look. Near Vagos. What's he got? Yes, there we go. Do you want to learn more about sparkling wines from the Bairrada region? I'll tell you what, it's worth making the journey up to the Bairrada region for this, by the sound of it. Vagos has the answer, not far from Aveiro. You could include a trip to Ilhavo, where there's a few great museums in Ilhavo, which is south of Aveiro, and you can have a look at some of the beaches that we see when Andy is riding his bike. So if you want to learn more about sparkling wines from the Bairrada region, go to Vagos on the 18th of this month. This training session aims to teach the history of the sparkling wines of the Bairrada region, their main characteristics, as well as their possible food pairings. You must register. I'm not surprised. And it will take place between 3:30 and 6:30. So I think maybe get an Airbnb as well. The Casa Musée Gandaresa in Vagos and includes sparkling wine tasting. Soils and grape varieties, methods of production, Bairrada bubbles, whites, rosés, and reds. They have a sparkling red, as you'll have heard me say, the bubbles of the Bairrada and gastronomy. There you go. I'm going to put the link for that into the chat so that. Oh, hold on a minute. Can you see how my my computer talks in Portuguese much better than I do? So I'm just trying to copy the link. Copiar endereço do link. There you go. And I'll stop sharing that now and put that into the comments for you. Heronius Maximus will be here soon. And then, so let's just quickly return to the Velociraptor story. Let's see if we can help the police with tracking down the stolen Velociraptor. Unless somebody, is it stolen? Let's find out. Or is it a missing person kind of inquiry here? Please, it's a theft. They are referring to it as a theft. Police investigating theft of Velociraptor. Do you think he saw us? It comes to mind. Other jokes, I'm sure, you will come up with during the course of me sharing this with you. The GNR is investigating the theft of a dinosaur replica that was on display in the Jardim de Devesa in Pedrogo Grande in the district of Leiria. There it is. We received a complaint from the Pedrogo Grande Council about a theft that took place on New Year's Eve, and we have taken steps. A source from the GNR told Lusa, the news agency here in Portugal. As part of the Christmas program, the municipality announced Jurassic Christmas. Well, not anymore. That's been taken down 2 days ahead of 12th night, hasn't it? An exhibition that invited visitors to discover these animals, which started. I don't have animal and dinosaur in the same sentence usually, but I suppose they are, aren't they? Just a dinosaur is a dinosaur. Don't think of it as an animal, which started on December the 3rd and ended on Monday. The mayor of Pedrogo Grande, Antonio Lopes, confirmed the complaint and appealed to those who stole the replica of a Velociraptor weighing around 50 kilos to place it in a visible place. Again, do you think he saw us? Comes to mind. Antonio Lopes stressed that although there was security in place, there was perhaps a window of opportunity that made the theft possible. Is it the same security system they've got for Jeffrey Epstein, I wonder? This exhibition was fantastic in terms of turnout of families from the county and from other areas, he added, lamenting the theft. And I would like to, I mean, I don't want to see Antonio Lopes in a sad state necessarily, but that would have been the ideal picture, wouldn't it? A bit of local news and the sad Senor Lopes of Pedroga Grande, the mayor of Pedroga Grande, standing where the dinosaur used to be with a sad look on his face, the ultimate local news story picture. Can you just make a sad face while we take the picture, please? There was security. Yeah, sure there was. It says heart. This is one of the great things about the Portugal news is the comments. Thieves sneaking away with a 50-kilo velociraptor while security is taking a drunken nap. Good on the thieves. I hope they enjoy their dinosaur. Lol. There's something about the Portugal news that brings out that spirit of comment, I have to say. Michael Herron wondering what he's wandered into here with the theft of a velociraptor. What's that in Michael's room? It's a 50-kilo velociraptor. No, it's not really. Let's give him a nice round of applause and bring him onto the screen now. Hey!
Good morning. Happy New Year.
Felicia, and over to you as well, my friend. We were just looking at the news from Pedroga Grande. I shouldn't laugh because the mayor, Antonio Lopes, is quite unhappy, obviously, about the theft of a 50-kilo velociraptor replica. I mean,
Wow.
It's going to take some hiding, isn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting though because there's a lot of dinosaur remains and discoveries in Portugal. Like there's so many. It's really famous for it, and it's not something that I've ever properly looked into.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with dinosaurs, so I need to look at that in more detail. But yeah, that website, some of the comments, it's like the Daily Mail. It's fantastic. There's trolling in there. Yeah.
There's something about it, isn't there? People feel, I don't know, particularly or especially edgy, don't they, when they're reading the Portugal news, and then they flame it up in the comments.
So they've woken up a little bit nervous in the morning. You know, they need to.
So, Michael, great to see you here. Yeah, Happy New Year to you. I hope you had a great Christmas. You certainly, I think in many ways had a great Christmas because of your World Cup enjoyment, right? It was a good one for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. I was just so happy that my mum was here with me to be able to see it. You know, it was just so emotional, and yeah, it was just fantastic. It was fantastic. It was great. No words, mate. It was unbelievable.
That, of course, because she is Argentinian, and you have been brought up with her love of Argentinian or the national and game, the team, every time they're in the World Cup. So a lovely moment for you and mum to enjoy that. But generally speaking, the whole tournament was great, wasn't it?
It was, and the final was unbelievable. I mean, it was crazy because at half time I said to my mum, because Argentina were winning 2-0, and I said to my mum something like, well, you know, be careful because sometimes to win a final you have to suffer.
Yes.
And but yeah, the whole tournament was great. The quality of the football was amazing. Everyone in Qatar, all the fans said they had a great experience. They felt really safe. So yeah, it was a great tournament. So congratulations to Qatar.
Yeah. And we look forward now to the Mexico, America, and Canada hosting, don't we, of 2026. So yeah,
we'll find out if Portugal, Spain, and Ukraine's bid to host 2030 is successful as well. That'll be
yes.
Not this year, I'm not sure, but it'll be announced the next couple of years, I think.
Yeah, okay. And before we move on from football, although we may be lured back to it because you are here talking about your predictions for Portugal, we will open up the phone lines as well for Europe's biggest phone-in, so other people can join us for the predictions about Portugal for 2023. And football might come into that, of course. But Deagle was wondering, what's Michael's view on the Cristiano deal and the sub deal? If Newcastle get Champions League, he can be loaned out to Newcastle. I didn't know about that bit. After his first goal, watch him kiss his club badge. Who wouldn't? I think I would do that as well. So what do you make of his move? Because you did mention that was a possibility, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think given what happened in the tournament with Portugal, I think he's probably felt a little bit of because this guy needs to feel loved to play his best, right? Let's be honest. And I don't mean that just because of his ego. I think he's the sort of player, he needs to feel loved to get his best. I don't think he was feeling the love in Portugal, should we say. So that's probably why he hasn't come home to Sporting yet. And I just think, you know, the Saudis were offering him, I mean, I think he's going to be earning 200 million a year. I think it's the the biggest contract ever in football. So he's cashing in. Fair play. He's probably going to be having a great lifestyle out there.
Yes.
Fair play to him. And and if this agreement with Newcastle is correct, that if they get into the Champions League, he can be loaned out there. That makes sense, because I'd imagine the Saudi League probably doesn't coincide with the Premier League the whole year, so he can probably be loaned out for a few months and play in Newcastle. That'll be good for the Saudi League and for their image as well. So it's all positive. So I think it's a good deal for everyone, to be honest. Fair play to him. Hope he does well.
And an exciting day when he turns up at Newcastle, right?
Yeah, if he does, let's see. But yeah, it would be exciting. Yeah, it would be very exciting.
Yeah, superb. Okay, and of course the passing of Pelé, the footballing legend. He came to mind when you said, you mentioned Cristiano Ronaldo's ego, which is a matter of some discussion. Perhaps the least egoic of footballers, Pelé. That's why he's so loved, right?
Well, I mean, he had his ego as well, but I think the guy effectively. I mean, you look at the history of the World Cup, and it's not just because 58 was the first one that we had proper images, but I think you look at 30, 34, 38, and then 50. But 58 is when the World Cup magic really started, when Pelé made his debut at 17.
Wow.
Brazil playing in Sweden, so they were the first South American team to win a World Cup outside of their continent. And just everyone was just, who is this guy? It was just unbelievable, because back then that was the era when you could watch a World Cup and not know who half the players were, because you weren't able to see them on TV. You weren't aware of what was happening in Brazilian football. And just the guy was on another level. And to win 3 World Cups, the level of football he played at, and also what he did for football in Brazil, but for black footballers especially as well, to give them, because up until that point there weren't any black footballers who were playing for the Brazil national team, not many. So he really gave like that visibility and inspiration to black Brazilians as well, and made it inclusive and made it an inclusive sport. So there's a lot of amazing things that guy did, but more importantly, he was just a phenomenal footballer. I mean, my grandfather remembers seeing him play for Santos in the 50s. But in the early 60s. So he'd have been in his 20s at the time. And he said that Pelé, they were playing a team in Chile, I think, and it was 3-0 at half time. Pelé was on the bench. Santos were losing 3-0. And then he comes on the second half, and Santos won 8-3, and Pelé scored 5 goals. And my grandfather said, there's a lot of footage that you don't see because there's not a lot available. But he said just the guy was unbelievable player. So yeah, so it was very sad to hear that he'd passed.
Yes, indeed. And it is amazing that, isn't it, about the timing, how that can help with a career, how technology, because of course we live in the age, don't we, where there is like hyper reporting. We've gone from one extreme to another in what you've said there, haven't we? Where he emerged and rose with the notoriety that sort of publicity could bring. Whereas at this end of things, for Cristiano Ronaldo, he can't move without being photographed or documented in some way, which is from the sublime to the ridiculous, really. And fair play to any footballer who can cope with that, as well as play the game with all of that scrutiny going on. So good luck to Cristiano Ronaldo, and R.I.P. Pelé. Then we have Rajiv. Let's say a few hellos this morning. Finally, I have my D7 visa appointment, January the 12th at Abu Dhabi. Well done. Yes, I think it has been a slow process for Abu Dhabi. Got all my paperwork in place, or at least I hope I have. Yes, fingers crossed. Wish me luck. Well, bonsoir to you.
Good luck, mate.
Yeah. PT Country Bear is with us as well this morning. Good morning to you, Marcus. Bon dia alegria. And see you all later. Sarah has to go off for a Portuguese. What's this? Preparing for Portuguese class emergency. Okay. Yes, you haven't done your homework.
Okay. we hope that's what it is.
I think so. I think it's that moment when you realise you haven't conjugated as much as you might have done. Yes, we were talking about peppers and potatoes and tomatoes, and those being taken to India by the Portuguese earlier on. I think that was the gist of it. And hola Gumpers from Marty. Good morning to you, Marty. Bon dia to you, mate. And Brian also in. How are you and Storm, Brian? Brian, Happy New Year to you. Don't think we've seen you yet this year. And Peter, bon dia. What an absolutely stunning morning. Yes, the weather is improving. Still a bit chilly here in Portugal, I would say. Just a quick question to throw out there. Why do... I don't think I should ask this question.
No. Let's move on.
Okay. It's always good to... I never learn, do I? It's always good to read a Pete Bleach comment before putting it onto the screen, before committing it to the screen. Friends, have to go. Work doesn't wait. Hope to see you tomorrow. Absolutely, Antonio F. Have a great day at work. The theft is quite sad. Going back to the Velociraptor then, Michael, where were their fro... Oh, we were there for dinner the other day. Okay, you weren't having a fro done there the other day. They were there for dinner the other day, and there were many families with small children enjoying the display. Well, I'm sorry I found it so amusing in that case. Desert Dweller also here. Wishing you great success, Raji from Desert Dweller. People finding themselves in this situation at the moment ahead of D7 or any kind of consular or bureaucratic meeting. Good luck to you. My Brexit card meeting went really well, Michael. It was really good. I've paid for it online. I'm just waiting for it to come by registered post. So any Brits who need to get around to doing that, it really is not a very onerous process. Well, it wasn't for me at least. Just drop me a line if you want any help with that. It was a really great process, and I think that's because it was the Registo who are doing that on behalf of CEF and not CEF. Registo seem to be a little bit more efficient, and they are making a special.
Well, they finally figured out what to do with this, right? It was a problem for a while. Yeah, because anyone that had a residency pre Brexit had to register, but we had to wait for ages to find out what they were going to do with our status. So that's why it's important if you haven't done it to do it.
Yes, and yeah, I think it's the Portuguese government's chance to find out just exactly how many Brits there are lurking in Portugal as well.
I met the British ambassador a few years ago, and I asked him, what's the hardest part of his job, and he said going to regional parts of Portugal and telling British people that have been living here for 30 years that they have to register. They're going to get deported because there were so many that hadn't bothered to do it that have been here for years.
It's true, isn't it? And those days are over, aren't they? Let's face it. That's what this has meant. And that's so often the results of these sorts of decisions that are often emotional, and they have their perceived benefits or disadvantages that are obvious. Some of the other ones that are not so obvious kind of filter through later, don't they? I think that's one of the slower filtering effects, is that you're right. And there are people who've been here, Brits who came over in the 80s and 90s, right? Who just wandered over, and it was all very easy going. It just isn't like that anymore. Adios, Antonio. Ate amanhã to you. So have a great day at work, Antonio. And animal, mineral, or vegetable? That would be, I suppose, yes. Okay, fair enough. Dinosaurs are animals, although now they are minerals, are they not?
Yeah.
I think you could. They're formerly animals, now minerals. Lord Gilchrist is here now. He has no Lord Gilchrist. There's a hello to everyone, and he was the first to be on Europe's biggest phone-in, and he has the certificate to prove it. This is what you can get if you join us. Isn't that amazing?
Forget the 50-meter swimming badge you got at school. That's something to aspire to, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you chose that and not the Jim will fix it.
By the way, can I just quickly shout out to Andrew? Thank you so much, mate, for always inviting me to the Man Cave episode. I do always really intend to join, but for whatever reason, because it's on a Friday evening. But I promise I will be at the next one.
There you go. And do they give certificates as well? I was in the Man Cave. I think you have to have your shirt off for it.
You have to have your shirt off, or you have to fall asleep in front of the TV. Ask the doc for advice on how to do that in the most elegant way possible.
Oh, that's superb! I'd love to make that meme with the doc.
It's fantastic. Honestly, it's brilliant. It's the best thing ever.
Some Zeds
it's
coming.
So lovely. It was the most relaxing thing ever to watch him sound asleep in front of the TV, just so peaceful. It was great.
I think we've done that. I think based on what happened to me and my best buddy at school. My mate Johnny used to work in the evenings, and during A-level English, he fell asleep on his. It looked like he was reading a book, but we were only 6 of us in the group, so it was pretty obvious that he had fallen asleep. And our English teacher had a bit of a sense of humour, gestured to us to pack our belongings up and leave the room. just so
Wow.
that he was there on his own.
I love that.
This was
That's
just like
great banter, man.
isn't that
And
great?
what a guy, what a work ethic, right? That he was working nights and studying as well. That's amazing.
Yeah, at A level. This is what 17 or 18. And the English teacher, Mr. Kambata, and we used to call him obviously Africa Kambata
Yeah.
because it was the 80s.
Yeah.
Neville Kambata, thank you to you. You made English a little bit more bearable. He used to comb his beard during whilst we were reading from books. It was kind of like Dead Poets Society, but not really. But in this wonderful moment of my pal Johnny being asleep on his desk, he ushered us out of the room, and so that we could watch through the window when the buzzer went off for the end of the lesson.
Wow.
Isn't that great? And I think we did that. I think we did that for the doc one time in the man cave, or in one of these environments where we all just left. Yeah. Formula One in Portimao for 2023. Sports fans, then you can move on from the World Cup to
when is that? Do you know when that is, Carl? Do you know what month that is?
No, I don't. Are you thinking we might all go and have a little bit of
Yes, 100%.
trackside fun?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Formula One, but I've heard that just the noise and the atmosphere is meant to be.
I've never been, so maybe we could make that a thing this year. That is one of the themes that people would like to see on the show this year. Is news of group activities. So I think if you are up for involving others, Gumpers and people from the communities, expat community in Portugal, to events of any kind, including this one possibly, I'm very happy to facilitate that. Or even stick it on the website of people who want to get groups together to go through things. And that sounds like a good one to do, doesn't it? The Formula One in Portimao. Lord Gilchrist will tell us more, I'm sure, about that. Shirley, he's calling us Shirley, hosting a World Cup.
Here we go.
Is purely based on your ability to produce large bundles of cash in brown.
Allegedly.
Yes, we'll distance ourselves from that comment. Do you think Spain has a chance? What do you think of this 2030 bid?
I do think Spain and Portugal have a chance, especially with Ukraine joining them. Read into that what you will. It's a strange one because the reason Ukraine have joined, let's be honest, that's there's political reasons for that. Probably yes. Spain and Portugal think because I think what would have made more sense is Spain, Portugal, Morocco would have been great because Morocco have been trying to get the World Cup for years. So that would have made sense geographically. Ukraine doesn't make so much sense, but fair play if they get it after everything that's happened. I'm not knocking it; the country deserve it. It would be amazing for Portugal to be involved in hosting a World Cup while we're living here. I mean,
and wouldn't a greater aspiration? I'm going out there with this one, but I mean, it does seem like a very cynical political move, and you would hope, wouldn't you, that the bloody war would be over by 2030, and then it would be a distant memory. Or that in 2034 there will be a Russian-Ukraine World Cup of some sort, where these sexually frustrated warmongers have got the hell out. They're in jail or somewhere else. And the people of these countries who don't want to be at war with each other, clearly, are hosting a World Cup together instead of being forced to fight each other by warmongers and warlords. That's what I would like to see anyway.
I agree.
I don't know if there's much chance of that. I'm contacting my network of people for pit access passes. Now, I'm hoping he's referring to the Formula One there.
He will be. I don't think that's a euphemism, mate.
or a trip down a mine. Yorkshire, out pit. No, I think that is Formula One. So that would be great, Lord Gilchrist. Yes, a trip, a group outing for that would be really wonderful, wouldn't it? The heat and the noise at Portimao. Hopefully, we can get something together for that. That would be very exciting. Carl H, morning to you. Cristiano is empire building now. Billionaire status incoming.
I think he already is a billionaire, Carl.
Yeah.
He already is, mate. Yeah.
Okay. All right. What's this, Pete? Again, I haven't read it yet. It has slightly less excitement than Saturday morning wrestling. Oh, so he's not a fan of the F1. I can already tell you that Red Bull's Max Verstappen will win Yawnfest. Not a fan. Good to see you, Michael, says France.
Nice, mate. Nice to see you.
And I wish Cristiano all the best, says Lord Gilchrist. He worked hard to achieve what he has and does much for charity in the top 20 of most charitable sports professionals. So there you go. That's good to note as well. Thank you, Andy. Are you getting the 5-year or 10-year card, Carl? I could log quickly onto the CEF portal.
Good.
I think it's a 10-year card. I also think it depends on how much is left on your passport as well, about how much they give you.
Okay.
So I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure my passport runs until 2030, which might just get me into the World Cup. I won't need it for here, will I? And if I've got my residency card, I won't need my passport anyway to go across to Spain. But I think it's a 10-year version. The long Brexit goodbye. Yeah, that's what I was referring to, isn't it? The long tail of these things that you don't consider in the heat of the moment. Heat up that hotline. Well said. I like that. I might be using that in the future. Heat up that hotline. Michael joining us, of course, this morning with his Portugal prediction. So 2023, Michael, and we'll throw the lines open at 5:30. But what do you think then? There are a number of forces at work, are there not? We are in a dismal global picture, potentially.
Yeah.
And Portugal, often the nearly man, right? Like
Yeah.
2006 and 7, yay, Portugal. Then 2008 came along, just before the pandemic. Yay, things are going so well. Ooh, the pandemic. Is it another case of that for Portugal in 2023 with a global slowdown?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say I'm cautiously optimistic. I mean, obviously, you know, we're still going to be heading into a recession. We've got inflation, but I know it's not always the best indicator in modern times as it used to be. But the unemployment rate in Europe as a whole is extremely low at the moment, which is a problem. It's a problem in the sense that you can't necessarily take that as a positive thing as you would do in the past, because when you break down the figure, you realize that there's something like 4 million people between the age of 24 and 40 who are unemployed. I'm talking about in Europe,
Yeah.
but are actually actively looking for work. They don't want to work because of burnout, because of, you know, for whatever reason. So it's not necessarily the best indicator. But yeah, I would say cautiously optimistic. I mean, obviously, like gas, electricity prices are going to continue to go up. I got a notification from my provider EDP in January that they've gone up.
Yes.
But obviously, we don't rely on our gas from Russia. I think we get it from Nigeria, so we have an advantage over other countries. I've noticed at the supermarket that even though things are still expensive, if you focus on buying products that are made in Portugal, they're still very cheap in comparison. So I'm talking about your olive oil, your wine, all your products that are made in Portugal. So I think the cost of living in Portugal is still relatively low compared to other countries, albeit not including how much it costs to buy and rent somewhere. So I don't know. I think we'll have to wait and see. It's a bit too early to tell, but I would say as long as we don't have another lockdown type situation, which let's hope we don't, then the traditional industries in Portugal, such as, you know, tourism, won't be affected, and hopefully the country will be fine. So yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. It's too early to tell, but I would say there's no need to panic. And even if we do, you know, head into a recession or continued inflation, that will be okay.
Yeah, I mean, I always figure that it's a great place to be, whatever's going on in the world. So
Yeah.
we've got that, haven't we? You know, we have more secure energy. We have a warmer baseline temperature. We don't have to worry so much about keeping warm for many months of the year.
Yeah.
And the quality of life is good, generally speaking, isn't it? So you can be distracted from those more worldly concerns quite easily here in Portugal. So we're keen to know what everyone else's predictions are for 2023 for Portugal as well. Michael Herron here, cautiously optimistic. We'll open up the phone lines in just a moment to find out what you think, if you want to call in about that. A theory was put to me last night, Michael. The prediction on the immigration side is that more people will be interested in moving to Portugal. You know, we have different types of immigration. Obviously, when we're talking in the kind of, you know, and forgive me for using the word, and I know it brings with it its own controversy, but in the expat world, so to speak, that's very different to the larger influx of workers, isn't it? And former colonies of Portugal. So where expat types who might describe themselves as such are worried about overflowing the country. They're really the least of anyone's migration concerns, I would have thought. There are far more people coming in, as your agricultural and factory workers in larger numbers, and from Portugal's former colonies than any impact the other types of retiring D7 type visa people and the impact they will make. But a theory I heard last night is this will get more difficult in the year ahead to move to Portugal. And not only that, the amount of money you need, what might rise, and the environment into which you're moving, the prices of rentals and buying property is going up. So it's becoming more challenging, and it's not the glory days of pre-2020 anymore. But there's that CEF's slowdown is purposeful. Now, I don't actually subscribe to this theory, although I do understand why somebody would think it, that it's absolutely not. It's not inefficiency and bureaucracy where CEF are stifled and are acting not as efficiently as people might like. But actually, it's a conspiracy that things are slowing down to allow the economy to heat up. And it's good for the Portuguese economy that migration is quite awkward and difficult. No country would do that purposefully, would they?
It's a good question. I mean, if it benefits Portugal in some way, then I'm sure that would be something that would be done on purpose. And I don't believe in coincidences anyway, so it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I think if you think about it logically, it kind of makes sense because Portugal is sold as like this dream, right? This dream of a better life, and this is whether you're a traditional immigrant who arrived, because I don't like the word expat. Let's use the word immigrant. We're all immigrants, right? So whether you're an immigrant that's coming, to retire or on a D7 visa, or you're someone coming from, you're coming here to work, whatever the circumstances, wherever you're coming from, it's still like a dream of a better life, right? Or a dream of a life that you want to have. And if that dream is too easily obtainable, then it doesn't feel like a dream, right? So there has to be a balance between it being something that you can get relatively easily, but it can't be too easy. And then, yeah, you're right. If rumors start to circulate that, it's not as easy now because there's a bit backup of flow into the CEF or whatever, then people start to think about it twice. But I have a theory that, and you'll probably relate to this, Carl, that a lot of people will say, I really want to move to Portugal. But actually, the percentage that end up doing it is relatively low in comparison because it is a difficult thing to do. I mean, I admire anyone that does it because psychologically, yeah. So I think that factor always protects any concerns of overflow anyway. Yeah, it makes sense that the CEF might be doing that, or probably they just can't cope with the amount of people that want to be here. So
and they are also, they have their own controversy, don't they, of reorganization for very bad reasons. And they haven't got to the bottom of that yet. The phoenix hasn't risen from the ashes of CEF just yet. Andrew says the D7 has already started swelling the capital. So is that a feeling you get, or is there a tangible sense of that? Lord Gilchrist, please let us know. We have very exciting. Oh yeah, F1 is modern chariot racing and is very exciting, despite what Pete has to say. And we don't know officially if anyone's got a 10-year Brexit card yet or not. And I think not Lord Gilchrist, and the other Andy tried to get a 10-year card, and I think has had to return to CEF to do that. I think I was seeing in the comments there as well.
Carl, if I could just say something very quickly, just because I saw 10-year and it reminded me of something. And this is the only thing that worries me a little bit, and it's not necessarily a bad thing either, is that if you think about it, the NHR regime and a lot of, retirees that move to Portugal to retire on an NHR status, so they wouldn't have to pay tax or additional tax on their retirement income. It's only a 10-year benefit. So what's going to happen to these people when their 10 years runs out? Are they going to stay, or are they going to go somewhere else?
You're right.
So that'll be interesting to see what happens. So that is even things out eventually,
Yes. Okay. It's time for this, Michael, and we will return after this. There we go. The Ode to Joy. Michael is still here with us with his predictions for 2023. We're keen to hear yours as well. We might need a bit more of a punchy jingle, might we, for Europe's biggest phone in. Is that a little bit too relaxed?
It's a little bit like when you call I don't know, you call Orange and you're trying to get your phone fixed and you want to kill yourself. No, I'm just joking.
Red Samaritans, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We have our first caller, Lord Gilchrist. He's the first caller ever, and he's also the second caller. So, Lord Gilchrist, are you there? Are you talking about your anecdotal evidence about how the D7 is changing life in the capital? Why is he coming out the wrong speaker here? Hold on a minute. I need to put you on the right because I don't think anyone can hear you. I've pressed the wrong button there. Can you call back, caller? That went well. Okay, call us back in just a minute, Andy. All right, mate. Thank you. I pressed.
Just like the Seth. If it's too hard, people won't bother.
Is that how Seth did? We answering the phone in various styles. That was the Seth approach just there, and hopefully he will call. Actually, no, I can call him back. That would be the polite thing to do, wouldn't it? But then I'm probably going to get engaged now if I do that. Let's try it. Are you there, Andy? He's answered, but he's not. Oh, this went so well the first time he called him, and it's not really working at all well this time. Let me see if I can change. Let me just press another button or two and see how this works. I think he's coming through. Yeah, this is when technology is not helping. Because he's coming through on my portable speaker rather than through the desk on Bluetooth. So I think we need to hardwire you, Andy, so to speak, at some point here, rather than trying to do this in a clever Bluetooth way. Can we hear you now, Andy? If you speak to us? No, that's rubbish, isn't it? I'm so sorry, Andy. I'm going to call you. I'm going to put the phone down on you and call you back again in just a moment, if I may. And we'll try that. And that's a really, I mean, that's no way to treat a lord, is it? Caller on line 1. Thank you. Are people enjoying this more than the phoning, I think? Aren't they?
I think so. Watching you
struggle live on it. Carl, that tune is for the longest wait on hold on a phone. I suppose it's adding insult to injury, isn't it, to play Ode to Joy to people for hours on end while they're waiting to get through. Portuguese visa delays are the equivalent of the queue outside a nightclub. I need to get in the queue now so that I eventually get in. Yeah, and I agree with what you said there, Michael, about how we take our hat off to people who are doing it. And how, in some ways, if it's a dream, you have to work hard for it. You know, I mean, that said, it was easy for us, wasn't it? Back in the day, we can have a drink one day together, can't we, as old Giffers, and remember how easy it was back in the glory days when Brits could just toddle across to Portugal and be here. We also have a prediction for 23 from Carlos F. More rain breaks would be nice, and we have some documentary evidence of that. I think it's okay to criticize the rain again. This from Gary Austin. Look at the water level in that picture up there near Al Viagra. That was earlier on this year. And after all the rain, that's not too bad, is it?
Yeah.
Look at that comparison there. That's fantastic. So I think it's actually okay now to criticize the rain without being a social pariah or being anti-environmental. Biggest call in on the smallest speaker. Thank you very much. And like an earbud. I know. All right, everybody, we're doing our best here. And let's see if we can make an outbound call to Lord Gilchrist on Europe's biggest and most awkward phone in. Let's see if this is working. No, I still can't make that. Michael, have you got any predictions? Any more predictions for 2023? While I try.
This phone-in will be a success eventually.
Anything other than that?
Good morning. How's it going, gentlemen? Can you hear me? Am I coming in?
You are. Ye of little faith. I mean, this happens to the big boys as well. I'm sure this has happened on LBC from time to time. I imagine old James, what's his name, or Nick Ferrari do their nuts and shout at their producers. I can only shout at myself when that happens. Lord Gilchrist, D7s. Is that what you're ringing in about? And the change it's making in the capital?
Well, I've seen a few things on YouTube that kind of paint a sort of gloomy picture for the natives because of like the influx of D7, digital nomads, if you like. But anecdotally, I do hear a lot of English and other languages spoken in the capital. But I think, again, you could probably say that about a lot of capital cities around the world.
Yeah, and we can often find the evidence to prove what's it called? Not morphic resonance, another confirmation bias. If you believe that we're being overrun by English-speaking expats or immigrants or foreigners, you will start to hear that, won't you, in the supermarket? Have you got anything else to go on with your theory?
Well, I mean, I guess that Portugal was kind of really geared up for a lot of tourism. I forget the numbers. It was something like 28 million tourists in 22, or something like that.
Yeah.
And the numbers are predicted to rise. So I guess that people are encouraged to learn English and other languages to kind of cope with that industry. And maybe it's me, maybe it's anecdotal, but I'm sure whenever I'm sort of around and about, you hear sort of English and other languages being spoken by students. You kind of overhear it in the supermarkets and things like that. And it's I hear the American twang now and again. It's not a bad thing.
American twang.
But, you know what I mean? The accent, that American lilt, if you like,
and a bit louder as well. And Americans are quite. And let's not be shy about this. Americans do talk a little bit louder than a lot of other races, don't they? And I think on we could probably have a spectrum, couldn't we? A sonic spectrum of the countries who speak the loudest. I think the Spanish are probably at the top.
Yeah, the Spanish are definitely the top.
And the Portuguese.
I'd say that the Portuguese have certainly got a loud dialect, depending on the region, for sure.
But also, I would say the Portuguese are fairly quiet when they're going about their business in a supermarket. Yeah. And you've got Brits who tend to, there are the sort of self-reflective Brits and Americans, of course, who are aware of how loud their compatriots can be. So they overcompensate and they kind of whispering as they walk around the supermarket so as not to stand out. And they're standing out because they're obviously whispering expats who are trying to keep a low profile in there. But yeah, I think Americans are a fairly a free race, like the Spanish are, and quite self-expressed. So you may hear them. I do at Pingados, Caldas on a Friday afternoon. That's the other thing, isn't it? If people don't give up their habits of shopping and they go on a Friday afternoon, you will see. You don't need to do that, guys. You're retired. You don't have to go to the supermarket on the same day that you used to go to when you worked after work on a Friday. You can go in the morning now. You can spread it throughout the week. Go on, Andy, you were going to say something else there.
Well, again, it's regional. I mean, I'm sure Cascais, as Peter said in the chat there, I'm sure Cascais has a large proportion. It seems to be a popular destination for D7ers. But also Portuguese in a coffee shop. Now, there's some volume because you've been to a coffee shop and you hear them basically shouting each other in large sounding conversation. But it's the vernacular, it's that, as I put it, it's a good thing, not a mean thing. Is Portuguese have an opinion and they love to say it.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm sure Michael will agree with me on that one as well.
Yeah. I think it's a lesson we could learn as well. It's not to fanny about. If you've got something to say it and respectfully. I mean, that's what goes with the Portuguese opinionation, if I could call it that. Is I have seen Portuguese people speaking to each other in quite the most. In England, you would think things are kicking off, is the phrase we would use, right? With the way that Portuguese people speak to each other. But if you stay in the room and you're not so embarrassed as a British person that you have to leave the room because it's getting a bit awkward, that there's a respect there that goes with the openness of communication. And people are cool about having different ideas. That's a lovely thing about Portuguese people, is that that it might be loud and it might be direct, and it's also very respectful. It's like
loud doesn't necessarily mean aggressive either. That's the thing. I think that's
well said.
No, it's just the volumes is my point. It's an observable phenomenon.
Yes, indeed, absolutely right. It's contextual as well, isn't it? As you say, in the cafe after a couple of café com chirinhos or a couple of imperiais, the Portuguese may well be much noisier than they would be at other times. What are the technical difficulties? What do you mean there, Pete? I predict technical difficulties this year, which is most welcome. I think that sounds a little bit expatty, doesn't it? I'm here now, and I'm going to pull up the drawbridge. Is that what you're saying there, Pete? And that is an expat phenomenon for sure, isn't it? It's like, I really love it here. I don't want more expats coming in. I agree that the difference between a dream and actually moving to Portugal is all the hard work involved. Desert Dweller agreeing with you there, Michael. And I have the sleepless nights to prove it. How can we help with that, I wonder? I don't like the sound of that. Good news for UK driving license exchange. DVLA will now send by email your D737. What? Which proves your license categories necessary for license exchange. That sounds like a good development for some. I often hear many different accents in English here in Ericeira, a relatively small population. Excuse me, yet still quite diverse. Congratulations to you and your mum, Michael. Thank you. Can you imagine how unbearably self-satisfied the French would have been if they had won? No. And I can hear an American accent blocks away. Porto, it's not just volume, but also because it's so familiar to me as well. Gary, good time to visit Portugal, especially the 2023 capital, the Douro. Yes, wine capital, the Douro. Great recognition for Portuguese wine. Well, that's what we need to wangle, you, me, and Andy here, is a trip to broadcast the next time you're on from the Douro, from maybe one of those boats.
Let's do it. Let's do it. 100%.
You reckon? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Predictions for 2023.
Perhaps not in February. It might be a bit
No,
cold.
let's wait until the summer. Okay.
Yeah.
If you're watching the PR department of the Douro region, I predict Portugal will see the Gersbachs coming in 2023. Just saying, fingers crossed for that. Would love that to be a reality for you, Francis. Sounds great. You'll have to come out for a few drinks. That's wonderful. What are your predictions for 23, Lord Gilchrist, given that that's the topic of the day for Portugal?
I predict Michael may join the man cave this year.
It's all very parochial, if you don't mind me saying. Can I sort of coax you out a little bit to the bigger picture of Portugal's prospects?
I was just wanted to get that one in.
He doesn't miss a chance. He doesn't miss a chance.
I know. I predict. I think I predict. Despite the sort of coming potential woes of 23, I predict Portugal's interest will continue to rise. Yeah. I think tourism will continue to rise, and as Gary said, the wine will continue to get global recognition. It's a bit of a hidden secret, isn't it? Portuguese red wine. It's fabulous, but no one really knows about it or drinks it apart from Portuguese. Yeah, I think the more Portugal becomes a kind of a pin on the world map, I think the more its secrets will be revealed to the rest of the world.
Yes.
It's not a bad thing. I mean, the reality is there's a kind of period of flux and change in Portugal, which is attracting a more diverse community and culture. But it's happened the world over. I mean, I think Portugal's escaped it really until now. I think maybe it's just this is its time to get the more cosmopolitan, bohemian mixture in society rather than the kind of status quo that's been.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for that. Your predictions for 23 for Portugal. Nothing bad now, Carl, says Desert Dweller. I was referring to the time they threatened to strike. That's what the sleepless nights were about. It's all good. I am moving there next week. Isn't that fantastic? Wonderful, wonderful news. Thank you for sharing that with us here at Desert Dweller. Gary Austin, yes, thank you for your pictures, Garvo. And would you agree, Gary, it's time that we can say enough rain already now? I wonder. Just because Lord Gilchrist is on the line doesn't mean you can't call in as well. We can do a multiple, because it's electronic rather than the old-fashioned hornblower type phones. You can also call in on 913-590-303 and make a bit of a party line like we used to have as kids. I don't know if you two ever had that, where you picked up your phone at home and one of your neighbours was already on a call. Are you old enough to have experienced that?
Yeah. Oh, yes, party lines. We had a party line.
Michael, sure. Not so much, I think, looking at his face.
No, I'm not. That's gone straight over my head, boys. None of it.
All right. Portugal was number one on the International Living 2023 annual list of top places in the world to live. Thank you, James, for that. Portugal has been floating within the top 4 years. We'll have to look that up on international living. I think that's an expat service there, isn't it? Absolutely stunning at the moment, as Andy calls it, Tatooine, but more accurately Fundao. Absolutely stunning in March, April, as the hillside of Gardenia Mountains blushes pink with cherry blossom. Something I want to ask you while you're both here in the last 10 minutes of the show. In our news section, we have an article that we've linked to, which is it's calling Portugal the cheapest country, or it's among the cheapest countries for US citizens to move to. Do we like that? The fact that we are being called cheap? Maybe that's what's going to change. It's just we won't just be cheap. There'll be other factors brought into that. What do you think of that, Michael? Cheap?
Yeah, I don't like the word cheap. I think good value or cost effective. I think that's more respectful, because I think cheap sounds. And also, I think, I don't know. I don't think it is. I don't think it is in terms of buying or renting, a home. I think it is in terms of, compared to other countries, in terms of going out to buy, have a meal or all the other things. But it's not that cheap anymore compared to that easily. Yeah.
Well, yeah. There's a caveat to that, because it's also been recognised as Portugal as one of the third fastest growing expenses in Europe. Yeah, so prices are climbing for sure.
But is that because, or is that only in 60% of the country? And by that I mean 60% of the population lives in the two major cities and along the coastline. We still have this incredible treasure, and Pete and Gary might not thank me for saying this, but there's the interior of Portugal, which, just like Portuguese red wine, is hugely overlooked, I think, and you can still get great value, and you probably always will be able to, because the infrastructure's not there, right?
Oh, no, I agree. I think the interior is one of those things, like it's probably half the price to live in the interior than it is in the capital.
Yeah.
Literally things are about half the price. But I think the problem with Alentejo is it's very popular with the locals to have a summer or weekend place down in Alentejo, Mont. Yeah. And so I think Alentejo is probably more expensive than people realise. But up north of Lisbon, up in the interior, there's still your rural farming, agricultural, landscape. I've been to the markets up there, and it's fabulously priced and locally sourced produce. It's amazing.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely different.
You have to alter your lifestyle, I think, don't you? And get used to driving to everywhere, probably, and not forgetting the milk when you've come back from a long trip out. Oh, we have a caller on line 2. Chris is joining us. Capricorn Chris, where you been, mate?
I've been working.
He sounds like it as well, doesn't he? All night.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Have you been working all night? You sound a bit gravelly.
Exactly. All night I've been working.
Seriously?
So I've just been working on some stuff on the computer, so it's been a bit knackering.
OnlyFans? What is it?
Only Chris, more like.
Only Chris. Okay, well, we won't. Just as Stephen is suggesting, that we could. I'm not probing the interior, and I'm not going to be probing Chris anymore about what he's been doing all night on his computer. What is to what do we owe this pleasure, Chris?
I just want to say that like Andy, I've been watching YouTube as well, and I've been seeing some people that have been coming to Portugal and realizing that their dreams don't align with Portugal, so they've decided to go elsewhere. Some have gone to Thailand, some have gone to Paris. It's not, as we know, not everybody who thinks Portugal's going to be what they want will find it to be what they want, and some people will leave. But for me, then a lot of people that I know, Portugal's fantastic. I was at a party on Friday night, and I met a couple who said, look, we go to Portugal every year for the last 20 years, and their plan is also to retire to Portugal as well. So I think for 2023, I think there's going to be, like Andy said, there's going to be more people turning up on the shores of Portugal in a voyage of discovery.
Yes, yeah. And I do know who you're referring to, that guy who who found out that Portugal wasn't for him, who ended up in Paris. That his videos are fantastic, aren't they? He runs the full gauntlet of his emotions on every single one of his episodes. I can't remember is it Under the Surface, that chap?
Yes.
It's that guy. He's amazing, isn't he? But
Yeah.
I think his son is a notable influencer YouTuber who's actually based in Paris, and the whole thing might have been a bit of a ruse, actually, their little journey through Portugal, and they've ultimately ended up in France there. But things are changing, aren't they? There's definitely a transition from those days back in 2019, 2020 when the first YouTubers were talking about Portugal. It's a very different landscape. Similarly with the blogs as well, there are many more blogs. Oh, Mark, I didn't say hello to Mark earlier on, talking of great blogs about Portugal. Good morning to you, Mark. I hope you're still listening and you're hearing my greeting this morning. Happy New Year to you, mate. Pictures in from Owen will show that wonderful picture of your heron that's just come in. Not that one, the heron the bird. We will have a heron on the man and the heron the bird on the screen. You're not allowed, when people ring in, you can actually ask him to his not to his face but to his ear now, Lord Gilchrist. Where were you on New Year's Eve, Chris? If people are good enough to ring in, they can't be grilled and shamed in this way. But yes, where were you on New Year's Eve, Chris?
It wasn't New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve, I was at a friend's house on New Year's Eve, but the day before, on the eve of New Year's Eve, I was at a lovely party in Surrey, and it was quite cordial.
Yes.
I even took to the microphone and sang a few things on the old karaoke.
Maybe you'll do that for us one of these mornings. Yes. So there you go, Lord Gilchrist. Are you still with us?
Yes.
He is. He's just got the hump and he's not talking to you, Chris. Your money. Your money stretches
now I understand
further.
The question.
Okay, the further out you go, where we live has, for example, a limit on the cost of beer, pretty much €1. And it's not a legal limit, is it? But it's like a social limit, I think. Like the local people won't put up with it. Same with coffee, I think.
Yeah.
Talking of which, are you popping up this weekend, Andy? Yes, why don't you organise your social lives on Europe's Biggest Phone?
Pete, I'll call you after on Facebook.
Yeah, thanks. If you could do that separately, that'd be awesome. You do get.
Sorry, Carl, we'll just take over and arrange our social lives on Good Morning.
Why don't we just have it Europe's Biggest Diary instead of Europe's Biggest Phone? This is going to be an easy job for me, Lord Gilchrist, because I can change that to second as well as first. And you're going to get one of these as well, Chris, too. If you want to become a resident in Central Portugal, you will usually be most welcome because we need people to tend the land and rejuvenate agriculture. That's a fantastic invitation. That's not part of our environmental predictions for the year, but that will be an amazing thing to do to rejuvenate the interior. Immigrants here tend to want to integrate more than they do. So you metropolitan elites, Heron and Gilchrist, do you accept that there is a better chance of integration if you go to the interior and you can keep yourselves to yourselves in the swanky capital and surrounding areas? Michael, you might want to address that.
I mean, that just sounds like as long as you come to farm our land, then you're welcome, right? So I don't think the interior are necessarily more sophisticated than the cosmopolitan.
He's not taking it. He is not taking it. No. All right, fair enough.
It's a shocking question. Look at the way his face paused there. It looked like a shocking question.
What about you, Lord Gilchrist? Better chances of integration in the interior?
I think migrants to Portugal have come here because they want to be here, yes. And I think a lot of them will integrate because it's the life that they want. Maybe if you're in the interior and you're doing agriculture as like your farmsteading, I think you have to integrate with the locals to get, as Pete would say, his head of the council, his husband is a mechanic, and then you get to know everyone in the village, so to speak, because you'll drink in the same bar or the same cafe, you have food in the same restaurants, and I don't think you can not integrate in that regard. So, it's. I mean, I try and integrate in Lisbon, but it's a capital. Is how much integration can one do in the capital city?
Yeah, true. Answers on a postcard, please. We're saving a picture of an otter now. I wonder if he's got a beaver to come as well. There's a lot of lovely pictures there, Owen. I will definitely be showing your otter and your Heron as we close out the show today on Europe's biggest phone-in. This is the biggest that the biggest phone-in has been. Two callers. That's not too bad, is it? And Michael Herron,
they just keep getting broken.
I'm going to break it at this stage. Is that your prediction? So while I've got you here, chaps, as we finish the show today, I've been saving the dad jokes as I do for you. I was going to read them earlier on, but I'd just love to see the look on your face. Stay with us, Lord Gilchrist. Michael's looking forward to it already.
I'm about to leave. I'm about to leave.
What do you say to comfort a friend who's struggling with grammar? There, and there. Okay, you're allowed to laugh, Lord Gilchrist and Chris. That's a problem with the phone-in, isn't it? You can't see the look on people's faces. I went to the toy store.
Michael.
We're just enjoying Michael's face at the moment. I went to the toy store and asked the assistant where the Schwarzenegger dolls are, and he replied, "I'll be back." He's not happy about this. And what did the surgeon say to the patient who insisted on closing up their own incision? Suit yourself. That's good. Come suit yourself. No, he's staying stony faced. Okay, a picture of a heron then, with a bigger smile on its face, I think. And we'll finish with an otter from Owen. These are fantastic.
It's on the other side of the river. It can't hear the dad jokes. That's why it's so happy.
I don't know if you heard that, but Michael said it's on the other side of the river. It can't hear the dad jokes. But the otter has come forward. Otters in the River Lima. There's another reason to move to Portugal. And a nice prediction that the otter population will expand in the north of Portugal. That's fantastic. The rivers must be so clean that they're supporting otters. Michael Herron, great job today. Thank you very much for being here. And we'll see you on a riverboat in the Douro, I hope, in months to come. Chris, got a final word?
Final word is love Portugal, love the show.
Cheers, mate. Bye for now. And Lord Gilchrist.
I'm going to echo what Chris said. It's 6 months now, my full-time position in Lisbon, and I can't wait for the next 6. And I think everyone should smash that subscribe button. Go to Patreon, become a member. What else do you do?
Coffee. Coffee.com, not Patreon.
Coffee. Go buy Carl a coffee or a beer.
Just go to the homepage all the way.
The OnlyFans page is coming soon, isn't it, Carl?
The OnlyFans page will come soon if not enough people support us by other means, basically. A boy's got to do what a boy's got to do, right?
And remember, there's the Man Cave Man Calendar coming, which Carl's going to be selected for a month.
Well, you say that. I mean, a lot of people were disappointed this year about the Man Cave Calendar. It didn't make it for 2023. When are we doing this?
You've seen the Austins. We've already got willing members.
That's true. I wonder what you're going to say there. Willing. Yes, we have already got many willing members that have been dangled in front of us over the last few weeks. So let's make it so for 2024. Thank you so much for making this the biggest phone-in Europe so far. You will get your certificates. Have a great day, fellas, and bye for now.
Heat up that hotline, everyone. Heat it up.
Yes, well done. Bye for now. See you tomorrow with Fabrizio and Ian, live from the capital. Cheers, fellas.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.